computer won't allow me to present and talk at the same time. So if you want to pull up your resume for the folks and kind of share your screen, that'd be that would be probably be really helpful for them and for you.
Okay, yes, let me
Normally I would do it, but
get that appropriately set up.
cool.
Cool, wonderful. All right, well, hello everybody and welcome to Mock Interview and Feedback, episode number 53, featuring Corey Hiramoto from careershakers.com and James Hill III. We're here today, as we are many weeks, doing a mock interview for an individual looking for work. Today we have James, who is looking for an email marketing specialist role. If you're watching, feel free to tune in. Ask your own questions or ask any questions that you may have of the interviewing process. Corey, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Albert. We're on a pretty tight schedule today because I have another event to go to, but I wanted to make sure that James gets all the practice back in. But for those of you who are tuning in or want just more interview prep and tips and things like that, please do check out my YouTube channel. It's all under Career Shakers, just one word, Career Shakers on YouTube. I put up weekly videos for interview prep and resume writing and changing careers and things like that. But so for James, we're going to be practicing, as he said, email marketing manager role. So James, I guess if you want to give the audience some background on yourself, not in like an interview style, but just so they can get some context on you, like what types of jobs you're looking for besides this email marketing type, and what types of companies you're looking for, maybe even if you're open to remote work or just in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so I'm James Hill III. I've had a bit of a career break right before and also during COVID, sort of re-exploring a lot of what I was trying to pursue and also looking at some personal and intellectual pursuits that did at least bear some fruit, which was nice. But I'm trying to re-enter sort of the more corporate space. I was last in this kind of position at Cypress Semiconductor, did a lot of different things, but during the last few years of that, had worked with a lot of email marketing and lead management, CRM, those kinds of positions. And I really enjoyed that because it helped merge some of the communication stuff that I majored in at Santa Clara with the technical expertise that I've been gaining at a semiconductor company. And so I've been looking within the Bay Area, trying to also speak to a lot of staffing agencies and temp agencies to cast a wider net than I necessarily may have thought of myself, to try finding mostly positions within marketing communications, whether writing, even some editing kinds of things, a lot of focus on email marketing, growth marketing, lead management, CRM, specialist, associate, manager, whatever kinds of positions based on the description have seemed most appropriate. And I'm mostly focused within the Bay Area, though I'm perfectly willing to commute all across said Bay Area. And I'm also not opposed to remote or hybrid work as necessary, though obviously if it was hybrid and not in the Bay Area, it would take some further effort on that front.
Awesome. And
this
if
also
anyone watching this now or watching
screen? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's a perfect segue. I was going to say, for those of you who are watching this now or watching the recording later, if you are interested in James's background and have some roles that you want to contact him for, he's going to have his resume up on the screen. And also, if you can always contact me or Albert, and then we can always put you in touch with James. Awesome. Alrighty. So as always, I have prepared some questions for us to practice today, but we love audience participation. There's quite a few of you here today. So if any of you have certain interview questions you want us to go through, don't be shy, throw them out there, and we will give you some tips and advice, and we can even have James give them a try. Cool. So James, you ready to begin?
Yes, and you can see the screen. Hopefully everyone else can as well.
Yep. Looks good.
Perfect.
All righty. So the first question, and this is something you're probably going to get when you are coming back from a bit of a career break, right? Or maybe trying to re-enter the workforce. James, why don't you walk me through your experience?
Okay, yes. So I have a few years of experience within this email marketing sphere. I was working at Cypress Semiconductor, first as a co-op and intern, and then full-time from a course of entirely 2007 to 2018, and primarily on the marketing work from 2015 to 2018. And we had to revamp the entire marketing automation system within the company. I was involved with the process from interviewing vendors and figuring out which program Cypress wanted to use, up to choosing said program, which in this case was Oracle Eloqua, and learning it from square one. Nobody at the company had used this. No one had experience with this program. So myself and my boss were the two primary point men, learning all of these processes from scratch, working on user guides for other people within the company to work with, and then building up to getting a point where we could compose landing pages, forums, and hundreds of campaigns that eventually were going out to a customer list after we had migrated the hundreds of thousands of customers from our other disparate systems into either Eloqua's system or some of the Salesforce CRM systems that we also brought in around that time. And so I had a very in-depth experience learning the ins and outs of Eloqua, and I have stayed in contact with that system and reading up on updates and changes that they have made in the ensuing few years to make sure that it would be a smooth transition to return to that, or to pick up on another program, be it HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot, any of the other common email marketing systems. I believe that there are more similarities than differences, and given that I have experience coming from nothing on one of these programs, I believe it would be a smooth transition, to use a well-worn metaphor like riding a bike, to getting back on and starting with another system and moving forward.
All right, excellent. Very good. So right away, I want to point out something he did very, very well is he made his entire answer and completely customized and relevant for the job description, which is all email marketing focused. So that's exactly what he led off with. He was talking about how he actually implemented and chose Eloqua as the system and then all these other things. So that part was amazing. Things that I would add to this, number one, I think we should probably address the elephant in the room, which is that you took a bit of a career break from 2018 until now.
Fair.
So giving them some confidence that like, hey, I've been doing some marketing things and or keeping up to date, right? In addition to your rideshare and delivery work.
Yes.
Right. And then the other thing you want to talk about is some of the more like I would say technical or tactical parts about email marketing. You mentioned that you chose the system, right, and you migrated customers over to it and things like that. But I would want to know, what kind of email marketing did you do, right? What was like the conversion rates? What was the click-through rates, right? What were you marketing for, right? Was it for certain products? Was it for like all the products, right? Was it for certain accounts, right? Things like that. Give me a sense of that pure email marketing skill set that you have.
Okay. I could definitely do, in terms of what it was for and some of those items. In terms of some of the more concrete conversion rate kinds of things, obviously since I'm away from the company, it's been a few years, it's harder to get some of the exact numbers. So what would you suggest in terms of finding ways to still give something a
Rough
little more?
estimations of what you can remember, right? Or like, even if it's not the actual click-through rates, at least you can talk a little bit about like what improved, right? Or like what got better. Did sales go up? Like take a rough guess, right? Maybe you don't have CPM rates, but you've probably got like, well, say I don't know, we had we had less marketing spend, budget got cut, but we were still able to exceed sales goals, leveraging different email marketing techniques or tactics, things like that.
Okay.
All right, cool. So this would lead me perfectly into my next question, which is going to be, so James, thanks for walking me through your background and your resume. Can you tell me a little bit more about your email marketing experience?
Yes. Well, at Cypress, we, it was a semiconductor company, so we were primarily working a lot of the newer products that were coming through, the programmable systems on chips, some of the work from direct products that were being created at Cypress, or some of the larger, automotive alliances and things that they were doing, working with, car companies, with products such as the iPhone, products like phones, gaming systems. The Internet of Things had become an increasingly large focus within the company at that time, and we were working on a lot of different products that would go into very customizable pieces of day-to-day products that people would work with and use just at home. And so it was our mission with the marketing to condense all of this often very technical data and jargon into something where it could go off in a quick click through with some images and summaries of what everything was doing to make sure that people got the core of what we were looking for. And we also were tasked with often doing a lot of the invites and announcements of events that the company was putting on, whether it was that we were going to have a booth at an upcoming fair, or that we were promoting a new product with a launch at, I remember one specific case where we were working with some automotive programmable systems, and we're highlighting that at an IndyCar race. And that was something that we wanted to make sure to announce to a lot of people, because it was both very tangible and entertaining and interesting looking, but also highlighted some of the, new work that was being done at the company. So all of these different disparate products and programs had to be condensed down into campaigns that we could then push out to the new customer base. And I will touch on each and every one of those.
All right. Okay. Very good. Now, I like how you were focusing on demonstrating like your product and business knowledge, right? I would say like the first 30 to 45 seconds was you demonstrating that you're very ingrained in the business, you understand the products that they sell. You talked a little bit about different markets, right? Like auto versus manufacturing versus like other applications for the semiconductor or the chips. Now, one thing that I would want to add onto your answer is give me a little bit more of that technical, tactical knowledge around email marketing that you did. So far I know like what you were marketing
Mhm.
and like and you were doing some event marketing, right? So that much I got. But what I don't know is like, okay, were you the one writing the copy? Were you the one coming up with the campaign strategies, right?
Okay.
Who was designing the layouts for all these different ads, right? Was it just you? Were you working with the product management team? Were you working with the brand team, right? Like what were you owning and what were you responsible for as
Okay.
it relates to email marketing? And then of course we want to hear about the results, right? Like because you were in charge of all these things, what was the benefit for Cypress? Right? Like maybe before you were in charge, they had this. And then after you launched these new email marketing campaigns, or after you started advertising events, maybe you noticed attendance went up, or your bigger partners wanted bigger booths and spend more money, or who knows, right?
Okay.
Like so don't forget to talk about the impact that you always have with the business. Any questions on that?
I see someone's looking for a copy of the job description. Do you have
I'm
that?
just gonna ping that in here for everybody to see. So y'all can take a look at that as you need to. I put that in the chat. Marcia, this recording will be on the Albert's List YouTube channel, not on mine. Cool. Alrighty, and again, everyone, don't be shy. If you got questions for us to practice, throw it out there. It's going to be helpful for you and for James. Alrighty, next question. So, James, why do you want to work here at Logitech?
Yes. Well, there's a few different reasons. First of all, I believe that this position is one that matches a lot of the work that I've already discussed and some of the opportunities that I'm looking to continue utilizing the email marketing expertise that I already have. And I know that I can make an impact with what you're looking for in this email marketing manager position. Logitech specifically is also a company that I'm familiar with both as a user and had noticed during my time at Cypress is one that was utilizing a lot of, had a very high quality of product, of conversion, of things that people wanted to continue to use. And it's something that I hear about myself just in a day-to-day in the technical space, and know that it's one that I would be able to proudly represent and continue to move through. I know that you have a lot of impact within various products that I have personally used and ones that a lot of other people are talking about. I believe it's good to have a company that is something that people actually use and recognize, and one that I can talk about, where sometimes it can be a little more difficult and intricate talking about something that's less tangible, but the Logitech brand and name is strong. And I believe it would be one where the marketing can only help further boost that. I'm looking to continue to provide that impact at the company. There's also a personal help on the fact that the office is close to myself and where I live, which would be helpful in terms of being able to contribute as much as possible at the company without having to take away as much commute time, which is I believe could be convenient for both parties.
Okay, very good. So elements that everybody can take away from James's answer that are very good. He talks about how he can benefit the company, right? He was talking about how he can bring some of his previous experience from Cyprus doing marketing on over to help Logitech. Also, another good thing is he talks about like the research about the company. He's clearly done research which shows them that he really does want to work here, right? And he talked about how he's excited about the product, and that's another really big thing is companies like to know that you're excited, right? That you like this is your first choice. Hiring managers like to see that in interviews. Now, things that I would want to do maybe a little bit differently in your answer. I think you've got all the right elements of it. I think what we're missing is just something very, very small, right? Is explaining how your specific experience can actually benefit Cypress, or sorry, Logitech, when you put them together, right? You hinted at it, right? You're like, yeah, and I would really love to help you. I want to bring my experience from Cypress, but show them how you can help them, right?
Yeah.
Why you are the best person for this job to help them versus anyone else who's applying for this position, right? It's not a full blown like why you should hire me answer, but it should all kind of tie back to them, right? Because at the end of the day, they don't really care too much about what's in it for you because they're the one that's hiring, they're the one that's going to be paying you anyways. So they really care, okay, how is James going to help us, right? That's really what they want to hear from you. And when you say, yeah, so because I'm so passionate about Logitech and your products and your company, I know that I can help you via email marketing like I've helped Cypress, right? At Cypress, I was able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Now that I've got much more experience, I've also taken this career break, which I'm sure you're going to talk about as to how that benefited you, right? You're going to combine all these experiences and you're going to be able to elevate Logitech even more than what you were able to do at Cypress. But again, citing some specific email marketing related accomplishments will really drive that home for you. Make sense?
Yes, I'm writing a lot of taking notes myself. So
Yeah, no worries. I see something in Q&A here. Thank you for the anonymous question. James, when you are done taking notes, we can jump into the next question.
okay. All right. Okay.
Alrighty. So thank you, everybody. The marketing field is constantly changing. How are you staying up to date with new marketing trends and tactics?
Okay. That is something that is certainly very true. It is a fluid field, and I find that to be exciting because that means that there's a lot of new work and effort that you can bring. And I have been trying to stay up to date on this even while being out of the day-to-day work by reading up on newsletters and groups in places like LinkedIn. I've been taking courses on Salesforce and various marketing and CRM related areas to make sure that I have seen newer products and new tactics that are being used. I recently attended the MarTech online conference and watched some of the panels there, took in some of the different courses and classes that they had to see what was coming up within new trends on email marketing. And it's something that I'm in a constant process of pursuing and continuing to make sure that I'm aware of this and can bring that experience uh, to wherever I end up going next. I will say in general, outside of the, trying to provide an official answer part of this, and it is something that I've been trying to focus on a little bit more now that I've been applying for things. It's finding some of these resources and places to look at, things to read, so that I can actually know more of what has been present and current and have, concrete answers for that. So that is certainly a growing part of this process too, because I agree that it is something that's constantly changing, and it's one that I want to be able to react to when something like that comes up in an interview. So that is something that I'm in the process of working on, because it is, I do believe that to be valuable.
Absolutely. And this is definitely a common question that everybody in marketing will get, right? Is how do you keep up to date? How do you make sure that even, and this could even not be related to marketing sometimes, it could be related to like the product or the industry, right? They could have asked, well, as you know, the semiconductor industry is constantly evolving. It's a very competitive market right now. And so how do you stay up to date with like industry trends and new developments and technologies and things like that? So it could be related to like your technical job as marketing, or it could be related to your overall industry or product knowledge. So all of you should be prepared for questions like that. Now, James did a very good job talking about like how he reads things, gave some examples about Salesforce, staying up to date and current, things like that, right? Now, the only thing I would add to this is you should give them some type of example
Right.
that can really show them that you actually are doing the research, right? And you are staying up to date. So if you could say something like, yeah, and recently noticed that there's a email marketing trend related to something, 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 right? Maybe in the past, this was seen as like not very cost effective and had low conversion rates. But now studies are showing that X, Y, and Z is actually a very effective email marketing tactic. And this is something that I would love to A/B test if I were to join this company, right, or something like that. All right. Ooh, Scott, another very good question. All right, James, let us know when you are ready for the next one, in case you're taking notes.
Yes, one moment on that. Okay.
Cool. And actually, before I get into the next question, one of our attendees was asking if you could just give a little bit of context on the Martech conference that you said you went to.
Yes. So now I'm not specifically remembering this was in the conference specifically, or in some of the emails that they've sent afterwards, though it has been helpful to continue to see and to be connected with the people who are running this and with some of the companies involved. I know recently there was a pitch and email that was going on about finding email pitching that actually works. And it was something, obviously, considering I'm looking into email marketing, that caught my eye. And it was really focusing in on the fact that people tend to only look at and read very brief and concise and to the point kinds of emails, kinds of marketing briefs, push notifications, those kinds of things. So it's trying to find a way to make sure that you get across whatever you're trying to get across quickly before you lose the audience. And it's something that I know I personally work on and focus on in a lot of what I am doing, and have made a point to make a personal emphasis, because from the common journalism background that I have, brevity is something that I have struggled with at points. And so I want to make sure that it is something that is a focus and emphasis with whatever marketing work is going forward, because I know that unfortunately you will lose people with longer detail, even if it is helpful to further elaborate on the product.
Cool. And also, just one other compliment and one other thing I wanted to point out for the audience is I think one thing anyone can take away from James today as well is you'll notice how eloquent James is in his delivery, like his choice of words, as well as like how he delivers each statement or response. It comes across as like he's a very strong communicator, and these are like well, it is literally verbal, but I guess like nonverbal cues that would also provide like very positive branding for somebody during an interview, just in the overall delivery of your answers and how you choose to like enunciate words and even use certain words. James does that very, very well. So it's very clear that he's a very strong communicator even before he's like answering a question. And even sometimes when James is thinking, you can see he pauses a little bit, which is totally fine, right? But even when he picks back up, you'll notice his word choice and this just the overall delivery is very effective. So I think that's something a lot of people can practice and learn from James today.
Thank you. And I did want to ask on that note that how has my uh, speed been? Because I know it is something that when I'm getting deeper into a point of having a conversation myself, I can often talk a little fast. And it's something that I try to stay cognizant of in an interview setting. But how has that been?
Speed has been fine, but I'm also a very fast talker, so that could be why for me it's not a problem. But honestly, I haven't even noticed anything, so I think it's been great.
Okay, it's good to hear. I appreciate that. Something I try to stay aware of.
Nice. All right, Scott, thank you for this question. This is a good one. So, James, has your technical and tactical experience worked with specific types of email systems like POP, IMAP, solely web browser based, such that you can describe how your experience in education can be applied to current and future email applications?
Okay. Hmm. Well, I believe my experience within Eloqua was primarily on the web browser based front. I did not have the immediate familiarity with those other two systems that you had mentioned there, though it was a quick pickup on the web browser front and something that I would be excited to learn about further. I can say that in terms of working within these email systems, one thing that I think would show that it will be an easy enough pickup whenever I have to go to another one is the fact that while working within Eloqua, building some of the emails that we sent out and different landing pages that we had, and testing all of this, working on the distinct copy, working on the layout, making sure it all fit within this email that we're sending, and then testing it, sending it out, we noticed a lot of the time that something that looked good, coming through in Eloqua, or it looked good in Outlook, didn't look good in Gmail, or didn't look good when someone looked at it on some kind of other email client, or when someone was looking at it on a Mac or on their phone. And it often wasn't entirely clear why one of these things was or wasn't working, or you would make a change here that would work here and break someplace else. And so I did have to do a lot of work really tinkering very closely, meticulously on these emails and on the work that we had to make sure that it worked across a wide variety of different areas. And I think that level of detail and research and background work will help as I continue to try to expanding some of the different email clients that I might have to work with and some of the different systems like the ones you mentioned that I can learn and build upon.
So, Scott, you can let us know if you feel like that was a good answer there. I mean, I myself, I'm not an email marketing person, so I can't really describe whether or not technically whatever James said is correct. But I like how he gave an example of how he learned Eloqua very quickly and was able to implement it and run email marketing campaigns. He even gave like a really strong example about how certain systems may be different depending on the browser that's being used. So it shows that he does have that technical knowledge. I thought the answer was great, but would love to hear, Scott, your opinion on it as well. All right, so let's do one of my questions.
Okay.
Ready, James?
Yes.
So this is a two-parter. Part one. What is an email brand campaign that you really liked?
You specifically mean one that I had worked on?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
have to be one you worked on.
Hmm. Well, I've noticed that I know that Logitech has a lot of work within the gaming space. and from various mice, mouses. Not positive which one is technically correct for plural on this front, but within gaming, and Logitech has a lot of connections. And I've noticed that Ubisoft, while doing outreach on some of the upcoming franchises, has often had some very specific, in-depth, you know, historical looks. Like with the Assassin's Creed franchise, it goes into ancient Egypt or ancient Rome. Things are crafted in such a way where it looks artistically like it is from that specific area. And as you continue going through that, they know if you've logged in from previous games, they have your history on that front, they have your connection with the account. And it felt like it was certainly well personalized based on the efforts that I had done within that series and what I had looked at. And I appreciated that it was really tailored to what they were doing. And I found it interesting, even with the ones that I hadn't gone through and played myself. I think that the effort and the small touches on crafting the artwork and the copy and working it in a way where it took you directly to where you needed to go within their website was all appreciated. Didn't feel like it was a maze necessarily.
And so part two of my question, of course, I mean, you probably could have guessed this, but okay. So knowing that you liked all these things about that email marketing campaign, what concepts would you take from there to apply here at Logitech?
Okay, yes, and I believe I've already highlighted some of those, but I would say that making sure that for the product that you have, your work is tailored, sort of specifically to highlight what is new and what is special about this, and places where it will be directly effective. People could see examples and notice, oh, that was there last time, or that was useful for me beforehand. That was something else that I had been familiar with, and it does it quickly. As I had said earlier, one of the things I noticed on the Martech conference, people need something quick, and so having a few bullet points and enticing artwork and color schemes that draw people in and have them focus on a few key points before they phase out into the hundreds, thousands of emails and promotions that come through. Trying to find some way to grab and keep briefly is very important. I know I myself have, countless amounts of promotional emails that have gone through it. So it's, even as much as important as the subject line can be very important to make sure that it's something that you'll get actually a click on, especially if they're not necessarily regular clickers to drive engagement.
Okay. So I think the only thing that I would add here is I think your second part, or my second follow-up question, I think if you could give me a more specific, concrete example that would
Okay,
tie to Logitech, that'd be really good.
that makes
That, of
sense.
course, builds on top of something you shared in the first one. So, for example, you shared about how Ubisoft is basically leveraging their data in order to provide really customized and tailored email marketing campaigns. The
Mm-hmm.
example you gave was they know that you own this game, they know how many times you've logged into this game, played this game, etc. And then so therefore they use that data to create really targeted email marketing campaigns that makes you open it and want to read through it, right? So I would have loved to hear you give me a solid example of like, okay, applying that concept now for Logitech, what is an example of user data that we should be considering collecting, and or maybe they already are collecting it, right? And then how do we
Right.
leverage that to create customized, specific email marketing campaigns for certain products that they may sell, right? Maybe it's like gaming mice versus
Okay.
like webcams versus things like that, right? Like
Yeah.
if you could
One thing
build
that
on
sort of
top of that, that would be awesome, because then it's like
okay.
super targeted and
Right.
shows them like, wow, James can really think on his feet. He actually truly understands marketing though, right? Because like if you can do marketing at one company, most likely you can probably apply the same concepts at another, but they would want to see, okay, given our specific nuances, right, what we sell is different than what Cypress sells.
Right.
How quickly can James adapt, right?
Okay, I know one thing that had popped in my head even while you were saying that is just thinking of, a lot of the diagnostic data that people, either agree or do not agree to sign off. But if you had agreed, I would at least think that one of those things may very well literally be if you own one of the one of their mouse products, how much it has been used, even possibly as granular as how much it's clicked through. I feel like that would be something that would be a pretty funny but also pertinent kind of email to get if you have one of the mouses for a while, they have a new one coming through. It's like, you've clicked over 60,000 times. It might be time for an upgrade. That's getting rusty or something along those lines.
Ooh. Yeah.
And it's hard to toe that line between, informative and slightly creepy, which is a difficult part on really in-depth personalized marketing. And that's, where you'd have to really look at what data you do have and what people have agreed to and finding a way to, make it fun but not seeming invasive, which is certainly something that a lot of companies are finding ways to have to work with on a lot of different technical products.
Yeah, absolutely. But and that will probably be like a follow-up question, but the main thing is though you're able to provide like something super targeted for them, which makes them go, oh wow, right? I like James. He has a new approach, right? All right, cool. So let's do one more. Are you ready?
Yes.
James, tell me about a time you analyzed and leveraged data to improve a campaign.
Okay. Yes, there's a specific example that I can think of that also I think would help address another part of the resume. So after I'll circle to my time after Cypress and circle back to time at Cypress. After leaving the company, it was my first full-time job, and the job hunt process, wasn't one I'd had to participate in after college because I started immediately afterwards, and I was very grateful for that. But it was something that I found difficult and had to work in some different areas, including Amazon work and rideshare, to keep things going. And I will say the rideshare often felt like a lot of personal marketing work, which was its own challenge. You're constantly putting yourself out there and trying to provide an experience to a different group of customers at a lot of different times. And I believe that is often, constant marketing, and something that I think I can bring in a more, abstract sense to any of these other positions. And I also was focusing on some more personal trivia pursuits, pun not intended on that front, as it's something that I had done in the past. And it's something that I brought to Cypress as well as bringing outside of that. Specifically, there's a lot of research and attention to detail. We had noticed when we were at Cypress opening this new system and trying to figure out who we needed to send our emails to and who the campaigns were targeting, that there was a lot of bad data, so to speak. There were a lot of addresses, email addresses, domains, locations that really didn't seem to be accurate. And I was tasked with going through the hundreds of thousands of names and sorting through and trying to make sure that it was as clean as possible before we migrated things in, so that we weren't wasting time and effort sending stuff out to, non-existent sources. And I remember noticing that there was a large amount of people coming from a place called Christmas Island. And it's the kind of thing that would catch my eye, even outside of a work context, as something that I'd be curious about, would look into on a trivia point. And I did. It is a real place. It's in the South Pacific, but they only have a population of roughly a couple thousand, 2,500 people. So having a few hundred to 1,000 in a Cypress database didn't seem likely, didn't seem very plausible that these people were actually there and actual customers. These were probably fake accounts. And so it was something that I was able to dig into a little bit, learn something, and clean that data up to help with what the company needed as well. And it's that kind of research also that helped in the personal pursuits on my own end, where I was building that research that ultimately helped me reach a game show on ABC in 2021, which was a very fun, intellectual pursuit, something that I potentially enjoyed. And it's something that I could bring those skills right back into the company, as mentioned, with some of this research and attention to detail.
All right, cool. Very, very, very interesting example. I think one thing that would really enhance this is if you're able to explain how identifying that there were all these fake accounts led to improving the email marketing campaign itself. That would
Okay.
really tie this answer all together, right? And then don't forget the result afterwards, right? And I know it's been a while since you worked there, but try and quantify or talk about the result in even in generalized terms, if possible.
Okay. That's something I've already mentioned throughout this process, and I will make sure I can dig through what I do have, and also think of some other examples to focus in on providing some results-based information to add to these answers to really give that extra spark.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But your structure is all there. You're choosing the right examples. Sometimes one of the problems people have is they choose to share wrong stories that don't quite answer questions and things like that. But your answer selection is very good. Now it's just about enhancing a few other details. And the big theme I think was like just getting more tactical and technical in terms of the email marketing expertise itself.
Okay.
But cool. Alrighty. Well, I need to run off to my next event, but thank you so much, Albert, and thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next week.
All right, and thank you very much for all this help here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us today and asking your questions. If you're interested in learning more, join us on Albert's List or go to our Albert's List YouTube channel to watch the videos that we've had. We also invite you to join us next week where we're going to continue our mock interview series with an engineering project manager. So stay tuned and stay with us for that. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye, everybody.